Week 2 in the NFL, and you're watching Picks with David. Thanks for joining me for another edition right here on Facebook and YouTube. And don't forget to like and subscribe to videos so you don't miss any of my picks or videos as we go through this NFL season. Let's get started with our first of 5 selections today in the NFL. It's the Kansas City Chiefs at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it's a rematch of the AFC divisional playoff round last year. The Chiefs are coming off an unfortunate loss against the Detroit Lions on the opening Thursday night game of the season. And they play at Jacksonville here, who has loaded up this offseason with some spectacular players. They traded for Calvin Ridley from the Atlanta Falcons, and he had a big game in week 1. Tank Bigsby comes in, the rookie, and he is headed up with Travis Etienne to have a two-headed running attack. Trevor Lawrence is playing very well. They ended the season with a playoff victory and then the loss to the Chiefs in the divisional round. But I think with being in the second year under Doug Peterson, we can expect big things from Jacksonville this year. They come in already with a victory under their belt, and I think that playing at home in the humidity may give them some advantage. Now, the Chiefs are going to have Chris Jones on the defensive line. He signed a new deal with the Kansas City Chiefs for this season, and so that'll help the defense. And Travis Kelce is expected to play on the offense. So that should help the Kansas City Chiefs offense out. I think both of these teams are top 5 offenses when they are hitting on all cylinders. Both coaches, of course, know each other so well. Andy Reid had Doug Peterson as, not only did Peterson play for him, but he was his offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach in Philadelphia and in Kansas City. And so the guys know each other quite well. I think this really depends on which defense can step up more. I thought the Chiefs defense played very well last week, despite the fact that they did not have Chris Jones. I think the addition of Jones, who will probably be on some sort of a snap count, should help that defense. So definitely against a strong running game that's coming into town here, for Jacksonville. And so, just looking at this game, I'm a Chiefs fan. I like the Chiefs, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Jacksonville Jaguars happen to eke this one out at the end. But I'm going to take the Chiefs in this game. Let's move on to game number 2. And that's the Baltimore Ravens at the Cincinnati Bengals. And again, this is another rematch of a playoff game that occurred last year, and it's a divisional matchup. In division rivalry, Baltimore comes in this year, and they've loaded down on offense. They bring in Odell Beckham Jr., they drafted Zay Flowers. Defensively last year, they added Roquan Smith, and between him and Patrick Queen, they have a dynamic front 7 that attacks the opposing offenses quite well. Big tackles all the time from this team. Cincinnati did not fare well in week 1 as they were lost to the Cleveland Browns. Joe Burrow was coming off of that calf injury. The offense sputtered, then did not look like they were in sync at all. Of course, Cleveland's defense helped with that. Baltimore's got a strong defense. But Cincinnati here, they're playing at home, and so that gives them a little bit of an advantage. Burrow's probably got his timing back now that he's had an opportunity to practice a full week and play this last week with his receivers. I didn't think their running game looked very good. They lost Samaje Perine this offseason to the Denver Broncos, so they're relying a lot on Joe Mixon, and he sure didn't show much in this previous game. But, Baltimore nearly won the game last year without Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, if not for a fumble on the goal line And so, with the new weapons coming in for Baltimore, I give them the advantage in this game. I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens to win in Cincinnati today. Game number 3 is the New York Jets at the Dallas Cowboys. Both teams are coming off of a victory, but it's not the matchup that we were expecting. Of course, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles in the Monday Night Football game, but on the strength of their defense and special teams, the Jets were able to overcome the Buffalo Bills. Speaking of defense, the Dallas Cowboys defense and special teams absolutely destroyed the New York Giants in week number 1. I expect a little bit more of the same here, as the offensive line for the New York Jets is porous. They allow a lot of pressure. Zach Wilson will be running for his life in this game. This is actually an easy pick, I believe. Even though the defense will hold the Dallas Cowboys down offensively, I think the strength of the Dallas Cowboy defense itself will lead the team to victory. I'm taking the Cowboys over the Jets today. Sunday Night Football, and you've got the Miami Dolphins at the New England Patriots. Miami is coming off of a big win on the West Coast against the Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego, and New England narrowly lost to the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. It was good to see that the New England Patriots have some offense. Last year, with the defensive coordinator and special teams coordinator running the so-called offense for New England, they looked terrible. But in the game last week against Philadelphia, the offense came alive. Mac Jones looked healthy and looked accurate. And I think that despite them probably being the 4th best team in their division, and this being a divisional matchup, I still think they're going to give a lot of teams problems on the strength of their defense. Now, Miami exploded for a lot of offense. Tua Tagovailoa had over 400 yards passing against the Chargers. Tyreek Hill started the season off with a bang with over 200 yards receiving, on his way to what he hopes will be a record-breaking 2,000-yard season. Now, Miami's got a lot of weapons for Tua to get the ball to. In the backfield, he's got Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr. The wide receivers besides Hill, he also has Jalen Waddle. And, they have, a plan against New England. Miami always seems to play New England tough. And, but you're playing against Bill Belichick, who's had all offseason to prepare for this high-flying offense, and New England is playing at home. And so I think that this will be a much tighter battle than some people may think. There's no way this is going to be a blowout. I still think Miami will get lots of yards, probably more on the ground than you would expect. They're going to do their best to try and shut down Tyreek Hill. I think they'll allow Jalen Waddle to get his yards, but they're going to do their best to rush the passer, stop Tyreek Hill, maybe give a little on the ground in order to protect the long passes down the field. But I think that the Miami Dolphins, they've got a formula that's going to work for them this year. I think they're a playoff team going into the season, and I think Miami wins the game in New England on Sunday Night Football. Monday Night Football has a doubleheader, and the second game that will begin is the Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. A tale of two completely different situations after week 1. You have the Cleveland Browns, of course, were able to dominate the Cincinnati Bengals. The Steelers were looking to, show that they belong as one of the elite teams in the AFC, but they got taken apart by the 49ers in Pittsburgh. You could clearly see there was a lot of rust. They were unable to run the football, as the revamped offensive line has still given the Steelers some trouble. Now, turnovers and things of that nature, those are going to happen. And, but they just can't do that all the time. They need their defense and their special teams really to lead the way. They need to start getting their running game together. Cleveland's defense looked pretty good, and so I don't think the Steelers are going to have an easy time of it trying to get their first win of the season. But I do believe that they are going to, make some better plays than they did against the 49ers, because I think the 49ers are an elite defense, whereas the Cleveland Browns are just a really good defense. As for Cleveland's offense, Deshaun Watson had some glimpses of his old self from back when he was in Houston. They were able to get the ball down the field to some of their big playmakers, and they ran the ball very effectively with Nick Chubb. And so I expect to see more of their running game, play action passing. I think Cleveland is going to give Pittsburgh all they can handle, and I think this will be a very tight game on Monday Night Football. But I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers in this matchup. Now let's take a look and see what DraftKings has to say. In our first two matchups, they say the Kansas City Chiefs are favored to win the game by 3.5. And, for my money, I think that this is going to be a very close game. I'd take the money line in this instance for the Chiefs. In Baltimore, Cincinnati, they actually have the Bengals favored to win the game because they're playing at home. I, again, like the matchup of the Baltimore Ravens to win this game, so you definitely want to take the money line in that one. Let's move on to our last three games of this week. Of course, Dallas, the heavy favorite against the New York Jets. They're favored by 9. I think that they should be able to cover that. And so, that's the way I would go there. As far as the Dolphins and the Patriots, they've got it as a very tight game. I don't think the Dolphins are going to play that tight of a game. I think that they'll easily win the game. So I would go ahead and give the points on this one. And then for Monday Night Football, I like the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though Cleveland is favored. I think that there's just no way that after being embarrassed in Week 1 against the 49ers, that they're going to come out and lay a dud against Cleveland, especially a team that they know so well because they're in their own division. So there's what DraftKings has to say for week number 2 in our games. So there you have it. There's your picks with David for week number 2. Thanks again for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video so you don't miss any of my picks as we go through this NFL season. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time for Thursday Night Football.